Hello, friends. I know a few of you have joined in yet, and you will in just a couple minutes. I'm not going to wait for everybody to jump on. I'm going to start talking. What's that issue here is what type of country will we be living in post this election? We have clear choices in front of us, and sadly, it's not as simple as it used to be. It used to be my guy loses, but in 4 years, I have another chance. The other side was that person isn't going to exactly bring what I want, but we're still all Americans working together, and we can compromise a little bit, and hopefully my guy will win next time, and then the other side will compromise, and we'll make things better. In each election prior to this one, that was a reasonable hope and an expectation. Unfortunately, this election is very crucial because Donald Trump has made it clear what type of man and what type of candidate and what type of president he would be. We don't have to look very far rather than just to go back for 4 years, and we see exactly what he did and what he will try to do. And he hasn't made it a secret. He wants revenge. He feels entitled to do certain things. And someone slapping him on the hand, he takes that very personal. And he wants revenge. This is his number one goal. But where will that revenge end? Will he just think, well, this Jack Smith has made my life very unpleasant, so I'm going after Jack Smith. Oh, Joe Biden allowed this to happen, so I'm going to go after Joe Biden. How far down the chain will it go? Remember, such men. Now, I know he said, I'll be a dictator for one day. Give me a break. That's like saying, I'm going to have sex only once and I'll never, ever, ever try it again. Power is more addictive than any drug or any physical thing that you could do. And you're not going to just take it and then give it back. It's more believable that Bill Clinton really did not inhale than it is to believe that Donald Trump will give up power. He said he will be a dictator. That's what you got to believe. And he doesn't mean for one day. He is not going to relinquish his power. Or he might move things around a little bit or have people helping. See, one of the big problems is that before he had responsible people in office, they shared a lot of his political goals and ideas, but they were not willing to go along with some of the crimes that Trump wanted to commit and employing the military on civilian protesters. You may say, oh, Trump 2024, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm pretty smart, George. Aren't I? I really got that liberal. I said Trump 2024. Boy, I showed him, didn't I? Yeah, we got your number, Pally. So enjoy. Still, the election will be over. Hopefully, our nation won't be over because if Trump gets in there, we are in big trouble. First of all, he'll start off his revenge tour. He will start with those on top, but don't think you're safe. The wise thing would be, if Trump gets in, all of us delete all our videos that we've made. Delete our accounts. Delete what we got on Facebook, what we got on YouTube, on here, on anything else. And let me tell you, you may say, well, I'm one of the guys saying Trump 2024, so I got nothing to worry about. Think twice, because such men are never secure. They are only happy if you're on your knees kissing their feet or kissing something even less desirable. If you don't praise him enough, he could see you as an enemy who's just closing their mouth and not saying what was really out there, and he may come after you too. You see, such men are that way, and he's now very, very insecure. He's worried. He saw those 34 felony charges, guilty, and he knows prison is very likely going to come for him if he doesn't win. That's why he wants to put all of us into a prison. Now, one of the things he'll do is, we already saw he tried to misuse the military and the intelligence agencies before. He will do that again. One person said that Trump 2.0, it won't be bad as many think. It'll be worse. And that's right. It'll be very worse. Ex-officials who worked with Trump warned that the executive branch will be weaponized by another mega president in ways it hasn't been reported in the past. This is a real important point, because it's not just Trump that we have to defeat. We have to defeat the idea of fascism that wants to come in and dictate to all of us. We don't need a dictator. I don't care if he's on the far right or the far left. We don't need dictators. We want someone in office that looks at you and says, you didn't vote for me, but I still represent you, and I'm going to do my best job to make your life better. Not, you didn't vote for me, so I'm coming after you, buddy. That's what we don't need. I know, frankly, friends, you think it'd be okay coming after liberals? Let me tell you what. That same secret police will be coming after you. That's what we're talking in the second term of Trump's. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton said that the damage Trump did in his first term was repairable, but the next Trump would do damage that would be not repairable, especially with the White House having been surrounded by all his yes men. See, before you had people talking Trump out of things that he wanted to do, and you had a vice president. I didn't like Mike Pence. Let me tell you why. I dislike his politics, his philosophy in politics, some of his weird stuff that he wanted women to be reporting their menstrual cycles and all. But the man at least had a spine and said, no, Donald, I cannot rig that election for you that you have lost. But now that won't be the case. J.D. Vance has made it clear, anything Trump wants from him, he's willing and ready to do. I want to make a type of analogy that we might have made on the loading docks. I'm a retired Teamster, but that would be quite foul and probably would end this conversation. Needless to say, there's no one there that's going to say no to Donald. He's like a spoiled child. You know the type. Have you ever babysitted someone's kid and afterwards you told them, I won't babysit your kid ever again? We have. Mom used to run a babysitting agency in Reno when I was in high school. And every once in a while, someone bring a kid in. No way. You got that child so spoiled that it has to be taken care of every second of the day because you've overspoiled it. We don't need it. That's the type of person Donald Trump is. He never got his hand slapped as a little kid, so he figured those cookies in that jar belong just to him. That is what Trump represents, a very self-centered man, and he will come for each of you. Now, Trump's National Security Council, Fenora Hill, I probably mispronounced her name, explained that the MAGA movement has paved the way for political intelligent community to point ideologues that will run these agencies just by Trump's whims. This is what this will do. This is going to weaken the United States. And there's going to be wars that we'll end up in that we will not be prepared to win. That's going to happen. It's unlikely those wars are going to be on our own borders. So we're not likely to lose land. But when you lose a war, you're now liable to that other country, and you got to pay reparations to them for the loss. Your taxes then are going to go up. Oh, well, I say yours. That sounds like I'm saying everybody's. He's not going to raise taxes on the rich. That's his second priority. But before he can cut taxes on the rich, he needs to cut out areas that other money is going to. One of the things you can bet your bottom dollar on, Trump's going to cut the VA benefits down to nothing. That way he can use those $250 billion budget for the VA for whatever he wants to. He can say, okay, I got this $250 surplus here. Guess what? You helped me by giving me so much money to run my election. I'm going to give you a tax break now. Oh, don't worry about that vet living on the street. You, Mr. Billionaire, you need that help. You need it more than that poor vet who lost a limb defending his country and now has to live in a cardboard box. I know you billionaires have it so rough. Your mega mansions, you've cut down to only 5 limousines and you only have 1 yacht. I feel your pain. So now Donald Trump says, I'm going to give you a huge tax cut. Heck, I might just make it so you never have to pay taxes again. Trump's former defense secretary, Mark Esper, added the biggest concern would be Trump's drawing troops away from key places around the world, abandoning our allies, which Trump would do this because he has higher priorities. He is very insecure about things like protests. And you will see bringing the troops back more into the United States. You may say, well, that'll help in some of the budget money. What that will do, if one of the things holding back a full onslaught from Russia and China to going into Taiwan, is there is a U.S. military force. Do you really think Iran wouldn't manage to negotiate?
Many United States Army installations are known as forts, although they are not always.
One second, I've got a problem.
This answer is from Wikipedia.
You just heard my series. I somehow got to learn to make her be quiet. Sorry. My series added to the conversation. It happens occasionally. Give me 1 second while I get her off. There. But a little humor there. Every once in a while I'll say something, and series will pop up and say this, and the other thing. So a little interruption. That doesn't hurt. But Trump wants to get his hands on power. And one thing dictators don't like is being told they're wrong. One thing narcissists, spoiled child men don't like is being told you can't do something. And Trump will use the military to make sure he can. He will neuter the Congress and the Supreme Court. They will have virtually no power. They will be paper institutions only, able to act only when Trump says okay. Beyond that, they won't have any authority. Trump will be, as a ruler, a dictator. And the laws protecting you and me, they'll either be abolished or be ignored because Trump has to have his stamp of approval. If he can take that money that would go to protect you from crimes, keep your food safe to eat, clean water, that money can go for tax cuts to the wealthy. He doesn't care about you. Oh, I know he puts up a good front. He doesn't care about you one iota. What he cares about is lining his pockets and keeping all his rich buddies on his side. You see, Donald Trump is like the spoiled rich kid who's gone to school and the other rich kids don't want anything to do with him. So he wants to get on their good side. And so one of the things he's going to do is to try to eliminate their taxes. And what part of this is second, as I said, to his revenge desire, going after anyone who dares stand up to him or hold him accountable. He's going to cut their taxes. He wants to eliminate it. One of the ways he'll try to do this is to switch to a national sales tax. Now, this penalizes the middle class and the poor the most because the wealthy, they hoard their money. Most of it doesn't go to buy things, or they can get it somewhere else, or they can get an exemption wrote into the law. So, they're going to buy that big old yacht, but they got a little trick up their sleeve so they don't have to pay tax on it. But they get out of the sales tax. But you and I will be paying that whole amount. And he'll also, to feather the nest and have more money for his wealthy, he's going to do away with Social Security and Medicare. Oh, I know, he says he won't. The man who told over 30,000 lies in 4 years, Donald Trump told 30,573 lies while in office, and you believe him when he says, I won't touch Social Security, I won't touch Medicare. Only thing is, he tried before and was stopped. You tell me he's not going to try it again? Donald Trump will be coming for anything he can to get money away from the middle class and the poor to give it to his rich buddies. You see, certain wealthy people, and I don't want to seem like I'm generalizing saying all wealthy people. I've had some very rich friends in my life, and this doesn't apply to all of them, but there are some that feel they are somehow superior to everybody else. They think they and they alone should be calling the shots. They feel if you don't have over a certain amount of wealth, you should not be voting. It should only be that elite class. This is nothing new. Before the French Revolution came into place, King Louis called all the nobles together because he was concerned about the plight of the poor. It was probably a wise thing because if Louis could have got them to go along with him, he might have just kept his head a few years later. But he brought in all these nobles. And he tried to get them to address a problem that the poor and the middle class, what little middle class then there was having. Their response was, why should we? They thought they were a whole different species than the poor, the peasants. That noble class was somehow above. We're not just talking someone who looks different because of their ethnicity, their race. We're talking people who look identical to them. But because they were born in poverty, they must be inferior. There are certain people who are wealthy who look down their nose at you in just the same way. And you might not want to believe it, but Donald Trump looks down his nose at each one of you and at me. We are just something to be used. And you who are posting Trump 2024, you are the ones he's just loving it. He curses you and talks dirty about you behind your back, and then you hand over your money to him. And he just smiles at all the way he's thinking, what a moron. And he's out to take you, and he's going to continue to take you. And he's going to take you and take you and take you to the cleaners. And he doesn't care if you have given. I'm going to take a quick look here. I don't know, it's saying host, but in 1 second, friends. I don't know what that was. It doesn't matter. Oh, there we go. Back to this. Sorry, I had to check, see what the heck that was. Anyway, Trump's going to go after Social Security and Medicare. You can be darn sure. He figures he doesn't need it. And here's the problem, friends. You see, FDR created Social Security as a pay-as-you-go. One generation paying for the retired generation. And LBJ started Medicare because the retired generation could not afford health insurance. And these have been two very successful democratic programs that America loves. So much so, it's poison to say you're going to cut them, even though that's exactly what Trump wants to do. Now, here's the thing. As when Reagan came into office, the Democratic Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, and the head of the Senate, Republican Bob Dole, sat down with President Reagan. You see, Reagan could argue with them during the day, and when the whistle blew and everybody punched out, Tip O'Neill and Bob Dole could sit down with President Reagan and have a cocktail and just calmly discuss the events of the day as friends would do, rather than negotiating with a harsh dictator. Okay, those two men came to Reagan and they said, look, right now we have no problems. Social Security is covering the needs of the retirees. But in 20, 30, 40 years, we're going to have more people retired than we have working, and we're going to have a problem. We're either going to have to raise taxes on the working people or cut benefits on the retired people. And all three men agreed that neither was a good choice. So they came up with a plan. Right at that point, we were only paying for those who were retired. Now we started a special trust fund. And that trust fund, we paid our normal end, and then we paid twice the amount. Our Social Security tax was doubled. The second half went into this trust fund, which was supposed to be there. As we started to die off, it would dwindle down. And when the last baby boomer died, it would be almost gone. They knew they might have to tweak it a little bit as it went on in time, such as taking the cap off. It began with, if you made over $70,000, anything above that $70,000, you did not pay tax on, Social Security tax on. Then they raised it. Now that cap is about $133,000. That means that a millionaire only pays Social Security, a man making $1 million in a year, he's only going to pay Social Security tax on the first $133,000. Everything above that is tax-free Social Security wise. There's a move to end the cap, which means every dollar will be subjected to that Social Security tax for the wealthy. They don't like that. That's more money. I mean, they got more money. They could live 100 lifetimes and never use up all the money they have. But they want more, and they don't like the idea of more taxes going, especially to us. So certain wealthy people, they don't like that idea at all. So they want to cut Social Security to stop that, and because Reagan's trust fund has been very successful. There are trillions and trillions of dollars in that trust fund right now. If Social Security was ended and that fund was put in the general budget, you know what would happen immediately? Huge tax cuts to the wealthy, rebates, refunds for the very wealthy, and that money be distributed to them. Now, keep in mind, they only pay taxes on up to $133,000. So that means most of that money in there didn't come from wealthy people, it came from you and me. But the wealthy are going to get it. That's the scheme. Now, there are certain, like I said, I don't want to scapegoat all wealthy people, because there are certain wealthy people that want nothing to do with that. And they are on our side. They're fighting for us all the way. And they say, I'm a billionaire. I can afford to pay a little bit more. These tax codes are wrong. But one billionaire can't hold up the whole load. they all have to get on board. And there's certain ones that want no part of it. It's like saying, okay, you choose your punishment. Is it going to be dad's belt on your bare bottom? Are you going to be restricted for the next 2 months? Or do you want to just say, I'm sorry? Okay, you're a kid. Which are you going to choose? And Medicare, the very wealthy, the extremists, they have no need for it. They don't even need insurance to cover all their medical needs. You and I do. And what we need is an improved Medicare for all. Do away with all these private health insurance companies and all covered by a universal health care for everybody. So no matter what your medical situation is, it's covered. And we pay through our taxes. We each pay a percentage of what we get, and that's what's fair. That means more money out of the pockets of the wealthy. And they don't like that. That's the last thing they want. So this is why their dream has been for years to get rid of Social Security and Medicare. Trump's desire to getting good with his wealthy buddies who have kind of shunned him. Oh, it does stop. He needs approval for them. And so he's going to do everything. One of the things he's going to do is abolish labor laws. Why couldn't your 5-year-old kid go into the coal mine? Oh, you can dig much smaller shafts with a child and save money. Oh, sure, a few of them are going to be lost, but heck, we've outlawed abortion, we've outlawed contraception, and we are required. We're going to really encourage you to have kids, so you lose 1 or 2, big deal. Yes, some of them are just that heartless. Now, with those labor laws gone, you can believe your right to strike will be gone too. The right to organize as a union will be gone. Now, you may say, I've never been in a union and I always did well. Well, part of the reason you did well was because of unions in your field. If one trucking company is competing with another company who treats his employees well with union benefits, that other company who does not want to go union, that company's going to have to match the wages and some of the benefits that those union employees have, or his company is going to become unionized. That's why you do so good. But you do away with the right to strike, right to unionize. It no longer is necessary. Now, one of the laws, too, is minimum wage. You can be sure the rich hate that law. I mean, right now, if minimum wage had kept up with the cost of living and productivity, it would be almost $24, $25 an hour right now. People think, oh, I'm doing really good. I'm making $25 an hour. No, you're making what minimum wage should be. If you're a quality worker, a pro, you should be making $30 to $40, maybe $50 an hour. But whose pocket is that going to come out of? Yeah, that wealthy CEO who's been pushing millions and millions of dollars in his pocket, so much his pockets are bulging from all the money he's been hoarding rather than paying you. So don't think they won't have a problem with cutting the minimum wage, because they'll cut it down. Maybe you'll get $1 a day. It used to be that way. And if you got $1 a day, you consider yourself lucky, because the jobs are so screwed up that way. It was FDR that changed all that. Now, you can also bet your bottom dollar that if you should go on strike, if you should have the courage to go out there and say no more, Trump's not going to just send a negotiator down there to talk to you. He's going to send his thugs, even the military. You'll be arrested, hauled off. In countries I've told people this before. I've been around for a while. I'm 67, and I've had in college. I had friends from all over the world, and I've had friends throughout my life. Some from Iran, some from other countries that lived under dictatorships. They each tell me about the secret police. And if you said something that the people at the top don't like, if you didn't stick up fast enough for your dictator, if you didn't sing his praises loud enough, late at night there could come up on your door, or maybe no knock, just the door kicked in, the secret police come in, they grab you, they take you off, and that's it. In North Korea, it isn't just you. You and your whole family will end up in one of those concentration camps. And with his revenge, don't think twice. Don't imagine that he won't be coming after people like myself. He's going to come after all of us who've dared to say anything that's not 100%, oh, Donald Trump, you're wonderful, you're the greatest ever. Because he can't handle any criticism, and he'll try to shut us all up and put us into concentration camps, because that is his goal. Now, I know there's some right-wingers, some Trump supporters out there watching this, and I'm sorry if you find this so upsetting. This is a fact. Donald Trump is not your friend. Donald Trump is the type of person who is looking at you as one of those losers and suckers and coming after you, and won't stop until you're gone. I don't know what that is. Anyway, if you keep following him, you're only setting yourself up for a disappointment. Now, let me make it clear. There's some very fine Republicans, some that I might not agree with, but if they got elected, I wouldn't feel that they were a danger. But this Project 2025, those following that, they mean us no goodness. They're after the very extreme, those elites that want to come after us. Believe me, elections are going to be gone, or at least real elections. Trump and those who come after him, they may put a facade out there, but back in the dark, smoky rooms will be those elite, rich men, mostly all white. And they will decide that we want this person because this person will do this, that, and the other thing that we have said they will do. And that will be it. Now, in North Korea, when they do vote, which surprised you to know that, they'll vote, but there's only one candidate on that ballot, the approved candidate. Now, they do have one right, though. They can put an X through that candidate's face, because there's a picture beside his name or her name, and vetoing the candidacy. And if there was enough, that person wouldn't get it. However, there's a problem. You see, to put the X mark in across there, you have to do it in front of the secret police. And you know what happens to the person that puts that X mark across that person's face? They disappear. So nobody wants to do that. But our legitimate elections will be gone. That's why when Trump said, vote this time and you won't ever have to do it again. He wants to take all the money we're spending on foreign aid and everything, pull it back more. A lot of it's going to end up in his own personal pockets. We saw this in the first administration. He then is going to line the pockets of his rich buddies to keep them loyal and happy, just like Putin has distributed money to his oligarchs so that they'll all stay with him. Now, what will happen, though, is he'll weaken us around the world. Our voice will no longer matter. Russia will feel emboldened, and they will go ahead and they will go fully into Ukraine, nothing holding them back. They will invade Poland and most of Eastern Europe. China will invade Taiwan, and Iran, over in the Middle East, there'll end up being a huge war. A third world war will start, and millions upon millions will die. Yes, Trump will usher in a third world war. The question is, what type of world will we have after that war is finished? Will it lead to a nuclear war? Most likely. Will any of us be left alive? Don't know. You see, so much hinges on having the right type of candidate. Someone who will tirelessly work for your benefit instead of just going out golfing. We don't need someone who will put the country on autopilot and hope it just does well. Donald Trump is the worst thing that could ever happen to this country. He was the worst thing. Let's remember, when Donald Trump came into office, he inherited a thriving economy from the team of Obama and Biden. And remember that for the first 2 years, a new president is either riding the wave of success or failure of the last president. Trump was riding the wave of success that Obama had left for him. But by the third year, the economy began to get shaky and wobbly because Trump's trade wars and all this garbage had weakened the country. And then when COVID hit, the economy was already tumbling, and that just put it down all the quicker. But Trump knew that could happen when the intelligence agencies came forward and told him about COVID. So he panicked and thought, maybe I can just wait this out. Maybe if I just keep quiet about it, we can just wait it out and it won't hit before the election, and everything will be hunky-dory. Because he feared that it would put the economy down. And he did nothing. And because of his incompetency, over 1 million Americans are dead today. The man also encouraged racism, rampant racism. From his youth, he's always been that way. There's no reason to hate anyone. I don't care if you are a Trump supporter or not. I don't hate you. I don't hate Trump. I love America. That's why I oppose Donald Trump. Because you see, what you guys confuse as hatred towards Trump is actually love for America. And I don't want to see us being destroyed. Our president after president, generation after generation, has built a better America. Oh, we're not perfect yet. We got a long way to go, but we are on the road to making this a great nation for everybody. It's true. America has never been great for everyone. There's been so many left behind, but we're slowly trying to pick up each one of our brothers and sisters who have fallen down. We all need to be those good Samaritans that see someone. I think one of the awful thing, I saw a video where someone saw a car that had slipped off in the snow and it's in the snowbank, and some woman was trying to get it unstuck, but he said it's wrong. He said, "Oh, I saw a Trump sticker on the back of her car and said screw her," and drove off. I don't care if that's a Trump supporter in trouble. You stop and you help them. And if you're a Trump supporter, you see a Democrat, you help them. You see, we are brothers and sisters. We are all Americans. And this hate has got to stop. Hate towards immigrants has to stop. We all are descendants of Democrats unless you happen to be 100% Native American. And if you trace Native Americans far enough, eventually you'll find They came from somewhere. We don't know now. We have all these theories. Yeah, I guess it is possible, if you buy fully into evolution, that they just evolved here. Possible. But unless you're 100% Native American, you're a descendant of immigrants. Or you're an immigrant yourself. And I know it feels good to have someone pat you on your back and tell you you're better than someone else. And sometimes it's true. Maybe you're the better player on that team. Maybe you score more touchdowns than anybody else. Maybe you score 4 touchdowns in a single game like Al Bundy. But does that make you a better person in every aspect of your life? No. As human beings, we are all equal. The guy with the most money, he's just as equal to the guy living in a cardboard box. And it's time we start treating each other as equals, as brothers and sisters. And this hate has got to stop. Now, I'm going to switch the camera around, and we're going to take a look at some of the comments. I've laid out a few of the ways that Trump is going to damage this country. And this is just a few of the things. It's horrible. And a lot of us felt Trump was a horrible candidate in 2016. But we feared that the economy might suffer. But we never imagined, one, that he would allow a deadly plague to come over America because he was too scared to do something. 2, we never imagined that if he lost the election, he would try to overthrow our democracy by staging a coup. We never imagined the man would be such a spoiled child that he couldn't handle losing. And so, I'm sorry, it just caught my eye. Thank you, San Antonio. He wrote up, Marty for president, 2024. That's flattering, but let me tell you why that would be a big mistake. I'm 64. I would love to run for political office, make my way up, and one day become maybe the first Italian-American president. I would love that. The problem is, by the time I got at least 10 years experience under my belt, I'd be 77. I know how much I hurt now at 67. And it just gets harder and harder. And every once in a while, I hate, if you're older, you know what I'm talking about. You pause the TV, you stand up, you walk out to get something. By the time you've taken 5 steps, it's like, what the heck did I get up for? You see, I know I'm getting older, and sometimes memory isn't being as sharp as it used to be. It's frustrating. But Joe Biden did the noble thing, because I think he would have beaten Donald Trump. But he said, I'm going to put the country before myself. I'm going to put the country ahead of my ego. And I'm going to bow out, and I'm going to give you Kamala Harris to be the next president. Hopefully, that's what will happen. But now we have Donald Trump is showing his age. And he can't keep a thought in his head. It goes blibbering on. The man is unfit. And part of the reason he did such a lousy job was he had no experience. Right now, to be president, you need to be 35 years of age and be a natural born citizen. That means either you were born in the United States or you were born to an American citizen. This is why Trump's racist, birther garbage was total garbage. You see, it didn't matter if Barack Obama had been born in Hawaii or born in Timbuktu. The fact that his mother was an American citizen made Barack Obama an American citizen eligible to be president. There was just one reason that they did not think President Obama was eligible to be president, and you know darn well what that reason was, that they didn't like having him as president. It was that color of his skin. That was the only reason they were opposed to him. And a lot of these people who are voting for Trump, who are supporting him, they like his racism. They want to feel they're better. They want to look down. They think that because they have got bad breaks in life, they need someone to blame. Oh, it's not my fault that I didn't study hard enough in school. It's not my fault that I didn't get the grades I needed to get into that Ivy League school. It's the fault of the school. They're letting in these minorities ahead of me. Wait a minute. Those minorities you're talking about, each one of them have, where you had D's and C's, they had A's and B's. Oh, no, it's not that. Oh, my boss, I applied for a job and they gave it to this illegal. That's the most racist word I think there is to call another human being. They gave it to this undocumented immigrant. Why is he undocumented, you think? Well, listen, he speaks Spanish. He has darker skin. I went on one site. This was years before TikTok and YouTube was just starting. And the moron looked at my last name, Martorella, and he was so stupid. He hurled racist insults about Mexicans towards me. And I just said, look, buddy, I know you're pretty dumb, but at least you can get the right ethnicity when you want to throw insults. You look a little bit better at that. But anyway, some of these people, they need that pat on the back. They need to have those motions reinforced that, oh, it's not your fault. You are a great worker. You were really smart. It's just because favoritism was given to these others. You've seen the type. Oh, my team didn't lose that game. Those referees were biased. I bet you that other team paid off the refs. Yeah. I know it. The Republicans talk about personal responsibility, but we, in these last few decades, have seen very little. It seems it's kind of like a sponge that's been filled with water and it's been being squeezed over the years, and less is there to be squeezed out. This all needs to stop. Like I said, I want to switch the camera here so I'll get up where I can see what was written so I can respond to some of the comments. Let's see if I can get this to go back. I know I've seen people making lots of comments, some of them probably Trump supporters, but you see, this is something else, Trump supporters. You want to take away my and other liberals' right to speech. You want to shut us up. We don't want to shut you up. We want you to be free. I welcome honest discussions with conservatives, real conservatives. However, thank you, whatever that is. But there are those who don't welcome discussion. They just want to shut us up because we have facts they don't have. Santo asked, why isn't Trump asking for a full investigation for the attempt on his life? That is a good question. Anyone have an idea why Trump isn't asking for an investigation for the guy taking a shot? We know that the guy who took the shot was a Trump supporter, so what's up with that? Now, instead of trying to read the names, I'll just read the question. Why do most Democrats look so sick? Well, friend, if I look sick to you, it's because I'm 67. And I would hate to think that when I was in my 20s that I looked just the same way. Sadly, when you age, you get wrinkles. Your hair thins a little. And but you know what? Also, you get money. You become successful. Well, some of us become successful and go forward. But now, I'm sorry for you who are filled with so much hate. But, that just goes to show why you like Trump. You love the hate. And hate is all you have. And let me tell you something. Hate will eat you up. It's a poison. It poisons the soul, and it will destroy you from the inside out. So, someone wrote, Trump supports self-management. I'm sorry, friend. The last person you want managing anything is Donald Trump. I mean, how many businesses did he have to destroy before you got the message? And he took a thriving economy down the gutter, destroyed it. Oh, TikTok King, thank you so much. TikTok King says, Marty is so smart. Thank you. I appreciate it, though. I love knowledge. And what bothers me is not how much I have learned, is how much I have yet to learn. And knowing since I'm 67, I could die tonight. I don't know. My dear grandpa died at my very same age. There was a lot of stress in the family right then. Some tragedy had hit, and we lost him to a heart attack. But even if I can live to be 100, that's only 33 years from now. Now, some of you listening to me haven't even reached 33 years of age. Think about it. Think if you knew that by the time you hit 33, that was it. That's kind of what I'm looking at. And what bothers me the most with this, well, two things bother me. I am a devout Christian, so I do believe that there is an afterlife. But believing and knowing are two different things. I don't know that there is a God. I believe there is. I don't know there is a heaven, but I believe there is. I hope there is. So there's a little uneasiness over the fact that I could be wrong. The other thing that I find troubling is that I will die knowing there's so much knowledge I have yet to learn. It's so unfair. I wish we could live for thousands of years just so we could keep learning. The sad truth is so many people don't learn. I don't know, somebody said something about they did request that. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know that. Okay. Some people want to throw insults, but if you're going to throw insults, here's the idea. If you want people not to think you're not exactly up there, you might want to write down your insult on something else. Maybe even like on your phone, switch over to notes or something and write it out, proofread it. Does that make sense? And then copy and paste it on one of these things, because when you try to insult people and it makes utterly no sense, they look at you and just shake their head. Someone talking about other people. Now let's see. Someone's claiming that Biden economy gave all your money to Uncle Sam. We'll hear that. Brother, Biden economy took us out of the dumps that Donald Trump put us in. We were on the verge of another Republican Great Depression like the Republicans gave us a century ago. You do realize that the Great Depression was the creation of 3 Republican presidents that stretched over 12 years. And they each had the same Secretary of the Treasury, Andrew Mellon. Now, Mr. Mellon's philosophy was that taxes on the rich should be brought down to 10% of their income, and then everybody else should pay 10% of their income in tax. Only the problem was so many people were living on pennies, literally on pennies a day. So he was only able to lower it to 25%. This caused the rich to have a glut in funds, and they began throwing money around, and you saw a boom. That's why those roaring 20s, they were great for the very wealthy, but not for everybody else. And the balloon got bigger and bigger and bigger till boom, it burst. And we had the Great Depression in 1929. Republicans have never learned this lesson. They caused the Great Depression. And then FDR came along, a very socialist Democrat, and turned it all around. And it's interesting to note that throughout our history, we have had depressions, recessions, and bank failures about every 10 or so years, except from the years that FDR's programs were, his New Deal was fully implemented, and when Reagan began to dismantle it. Then we had bank failures, recessions, and we had a great Republican recession under George W. And then we had Trump's near depression, which Joe Biden pulled us out of. And the proof is in the pudding. Jobs are up. Wages are up. Gas prices that because of Trump's incompetency were up like maybe $8 a gallon. I've showed you receipts of it being under $3 a gallon now. Yes, inflation has been a problem, but it hasn't really been inflation. I mean, there's a worldwide inflation, but the reason costs are high in the grocery stores, what reason gas was peaking on you like that, it's been greedy CEOs stealing your money, overcharging, jacking up the profits. And Democrats have been pushing for a windfall profit tax, which would go in and say, you had a right to a 10% profit on that, but you jacked it up to a 50% profit, and that's coming out of the pockets of people who cannot afford it. So therefore, that extra 40%, we're taxing you and taking that away, and guess where we're going to spend the money? We're going to give it back to the people you stole it from. Tell me, Trump supporter, would you like to get a check back for all that money you were cheated out of at the grocery store, at the gas pump? I bet you would. Well, one friend asked, why did Mega stop talking about Epstein's files? I got this feeling that they saw a certain name popping up. Ooh, almost out of tea. That means I'm getting closer to being finished. No more tea, no more me. But I think the reason they stopped talking about the Epstein files, they saw a certain name with initials DJT showing up quite often. I don't know. Who has initials DJT? Who could that be? Oh, yeah, I did say his name. Donald John Trump. I think it's so interesting that Trump's middle name is John. Some Russians, they got to know that personally, that he really was a John. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm being a little smug there. If I offended you, I apologize. Well, let's see. Mikey says, you are not very educated, are you? Well, I would beg to differ with you. See, I don't. Most educated people don't have libraries full of books, and that's only a portion. I'm remodeling my home so I can have an even bigger library, so I can have all my books available. Most educated people like myself went to college and grad school, but if you're so insecure, Mike, that you think you know more, you go ahead, you keep patting yourself on the back, and we know how you can tell an educated person? They try to educate the other people with facts like I've been giving to you right here. Everything I've said, you can research it. It's not that hard to do. What's it? No. I almost blocked somebody. I wasn't trying to. Something popped up there. I'm trying to go over some of your comments, but I can only do so much here. What's that? Something I'm trying to see. Somebody blinking. I don't know. It's just saying quick invites, and it said invite someone who's one of the real big shots. She doesn't usually do political stuff, so I doubt she'd be even interested in jumping in here. But as I said, you were invited to come on and say why you think Donald Trump would have made this a paradise. But no one evidently wanted to jump in to make that argument. I don't know why. Let's see here. Yes, Donald Trump messed up this country more than anyone else ever has. You know what, friend? One person sit with the nerve to call himself he says it is every time. Let me write these things out first. It is really every time someone hates Trump, they were obviously bullied in high school. I got news for you, pal. Since my stepfather did job shops for the aerospace program, that meant that each year we were moving, and usually always in a different school, sometimes private schools, sometimes not. The bullies would come around, but only once, because if there was a group of them, I would catch them alone and beat the crap out of them till I beat up each one of those bullies, and they never messed with me again. Matter of fact, I've told this story. I think it's kind of amusing. One of the times, my parents moved to a different area. We were going to move in the middle of the school year, so they put us into a private school. I don't know what it was called. I forget right offhand. But anyway, everybody contributed to help keep the school with money and doing different jobs and that. And there was grades from, I don't know if there was high school, but there was grade school through at least junior high, because I remember kids in the 8th grade there. But my point is, this one kid liked to pick on the younger kids. He was in the 7th grade. I was in the 3rd grade at the time. And here this kid who was at least a foot taller than me, maybe a foot and a half, he comes over and he starts bullying and he shoves. Well, I quickly belted him in the belly, knuckling him under. Then I grabbed a hold of his head and holding him down, and I'm pounding him in the face like this. When the principal of the school drives up, who, lo and behold, happens to be that kid's father. And I figure, oh man, I'm going to get it now, so I might as well let this guy get some for what I'm going to get. So I give him about 4 more punches in the face. At that point, the principal is walking over, and the kid's standing there. His hair is all shuffled. I can't remember if his nose was bleeding or not, but he definitely had a little damage. And his father looks down, and he looks at his kid, and he said, I told you, if you keep picking on these younger kids, eventually one of them is going to get the best of you. That kid, that 7th grader, had to go back into his class of other 7th graders, knowing that they knew he just got beat up by a 3rd grader, a 3rd grader who was at least a foot and a half shorter than him. So as to your being bullied in high school, no, by high school, they all knew me, and they never messed with me. Thank you. Depressed American said amen to what I'm saying. I appreciate that. Hell yeah, someone else says. Thank you very much. Preach it. Yeah, if you haven't guessed by now, I've said many times, I studied to be a minister. I've preached many sermons. If I had a buck for each one, I at least have a few dollars on hand. Anyhow, someone asked about the swords. There's only one sword and one dagger. This sword here, I'm not taking it down, but anyway, this is a replica of the type of sword my ancestors, the Romans, carried into battle when they conquered all the Mediterranean. Now, this is interesting because the Roman Empire had covered every piece of ground that touched the Mediterranean belonged to the Roman Empire at one point. So much so, they felt entitled. They changed the name of the Mediterranean to mean our sea, because it belonged to the Roman people, because it all belonged to them. This dagger is also the type that they carry. And excuse me as I walk over here. This little heavier. This is a replica of the type of shields that they carry. Like I say, I'm a history buff. I minored in history, but I think I have done more after college. I've done more reading of books about history than I have about religion because it fascinates me. But there are flintlock pistols there, two of them. They're replicas. They don't. You can't really fire them. You can pull the trigger and the fire hammer will pump down. If you had one of these old-fashioned caps that we used to use as kids in there, it'd make a pop sound. But that's what they are. They're just decorations, really, for my library. This person, I don't want to say his name because it sounds insulting. So, but I'll just say he asked, "What do you think a great nation is?" You know, a great nation is a nation where nobody goes to bed hungry. A great nation is where no child goes to bed hungry. No child is sleeping on the street. A great nation is where no one is forced to live on the street. Now, yeah, I know there's some people that love the nomadic life. I don't like calling them bums, but they used to call them hobos. They like that lifestyle. What they would do is they'd ride the rails to a different town. They do little teeny jobs here and there, just to get a little cash on hand. I don't know. Most of them, I don't think even went on public assistance, but they sometimes live in shacks, sometimes stay with family and friends, but they just kind of like traveling around, and they weren't interested in having a home. That is a very small minority. Most people want to work. The hardest thing for me was retiring. But my body began to give out. It was too hard to keep doing the job. And I even had got hurt on the job. Ran over by a 4,000-pound forklift. And everybody thought, he's going on disability. He'll be gone. No way. He's not going to come back. I fooled them all. It took a lot of hard work. I had to work hard to do it. They'd offered 1 day a week rehab. I got them to knock that up to 3 times a week, and I'd even suggested 5 days and said, no, that's too much. But I kept pushing till I was back, and I went back and I worked for 6 more years before the pain got so severe that I had to retire. But anyone who's willing to work should be able to earn enough on one paycheck. That's just one paycheck to support a family of 4. There's no reason that if you're working, one person working those 40 hours a week, that you should not be earning enough that you're able to stay off of welfare and food stamps. There's no reason for someone who is working 40 hours a week to be on welfare or food stamps. But sadly, there are a lot of working Americans that work more than 40 hours a week, that are forced on welfare and food stamps, have to try to get subsidized housing because wages have been kept artificially low for far too long. Like I said, if wages had kept up with the cost of living, it would be $25 an hour now just for minimum wage. Now, you say, what does minimum wage really have to do with it? I've always made a couple bucks above minimum wage. And that's the key there, friends. You see, employers, they will look and they will see your what minimum wage is, and they'll say, I'm going to be very generous and offer him $2-3 above minimum wage. And it looks generous. But let's look at that. Many places right now, minimum wage is still $7 an hour. So someone says, I'm going to give you $10 an hour. But the fact is, minimum wage should be $25 an hour. And if it was $25, that means if he's going to give you $3 above that, it should be $28. That is $18 an hour you are being cheated out of. If minimum wage had been up to where it was, that's $18 more an hour you would have been making. How's that help? One, you have a few dollars to set aside for investments. You see, Social Security was never meant to be all your needs in retirement. Social Security was meant to cover 1/3 of your needs in retirement. The second third was supposed to be filled with pensions, which most employers no longer offer because unions have been, because of Reagan's efforts, unions have been weakened. So most companies don't offer pensions. The other third of that equation was savings or investments. By keeping minimum wage artificially low, most people have no savings, no pension, and only have that 1/3 of Social Security that they're clinging to, which Trump and his friends will do away with. What are you going to do? You can't work anymore. No one's going to support you. You got to go to family, friends, to the church, and hopefully you can beg enough money off them to survive. Do you really want to live in a country full of beggars? Oh, I know Trump would probably like to just deport all of those type of people. That would be his answer. You know, a few years back, a wealthy man from, I think it was some place like Germany, was visiting one of these really poor countries. Like, I don't want to say the name of it, but in this country, you walking down the street, you look like someone from the West with a bit of money. All the kids come out with their hands begging. You've seen these type of countries for something. Well, there was a reporter, I think it was from Fox. He asked that wealthy man, "How much do you pay in taxes?" And the man said, "Oh, about," I think he says 60 or 70% of his income goes to taxes. And that Fox reporter was horrified. "How can you take that? Why do you stand for that?" And that wealthy man said, "Well, you know, I'd rather be a wealthy man with maybe a little less wealth, living in a country where everybody is prospering, everybody has enough to live on, where medical needs are covered, and people are able to be happy and satisfied, than to be an extremely wealthy man living in a country where everybody's running out with hands out begging for money because they're so poor." Sometimes you have to not think just of yourself, but think of the other person. That would make this a great nation. I believe having all your medical needs covered makes this a great nation. Yes, some things I don't really understand, you know, but I don't have to understand to be polite and respectful to other people. And when you do reach retirement, you should be able to retire with dignity. Because wages have been kept artificially low for 40, almost 50 years, and that means many people are retiring with only Social Security. For a short while, we need to boost Social Security to 3 times what it now is for people. And that means taking the cap off the Social Security tax so the wealthy pay the same amount or more to make up for what they got away with for so many years, and that triple the amount Social Security is giving to cover the pension portion and the savings or investment portions, so everybody has enough, and slowly begin to shrink down those other 2/3 as pensions and savings are beginning to add to the equation. Or another way to put that is the young person who's turning 18, 20, entering the workforce today. By the time he gets to 65 or she gets to 65, they have a pension and savings to add to their Social Security. So therefore, they only need the Social Security. We have cheated several generations out of a decent living. Now, you want to call that socialism, you go right ahead. It's not. Socialism is when the government owns and operates certain aspects of the society. Communism is when everything's been socialized, all owned by the government, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about having regulations to make every American's life livable and decent. If you think it's okay for a child to be going to bed hungry, then you got a problem. If you think it's okay to let a sick child die because you can't afford the medication or take him to the doctor, there's something wrong with you. If you think it's okay because it's an adult to let him go hungry, to let him go without food, something's wrong with you. If you would be like those men who walked by that man who was attacked on the Samaritan road and just walked the other way, looking at him like, what'd you do to deserve that? And walk away, there's something wrong with you. If you're a good Samaritan that reaches down and helps him up, there's something right with you. I think I kind of covered that base there. Okay, the person who has the audacity to call himself president of TikTok, I dare you to actually go to a board meeting and try to vote so-called president of TikTok. The football team, I had friends on the football team. I had friends on everything. I was quite popular back in those days. So, sorry, your attempted insults don't carry weight. But you know what? We know that when you guys throw insults, you're projecting a weakness in yourself, something that really bothers you. So let me say this to you, Mr. President of TikTok. You were a valuable person, even though nobody on the football team, even though none of those cheerleaders would even look at you, even though you went home every night wondering what it'd be like to hold a girl's hand, you were still a valuable person. So, I hear your projection, and I know what you're saying about yourself. And let me tell you, hang in there. Eventually, at work, we would joke around a lot. And there was one guy that he liked to try to tell other people what to do. And he came over to give me a hand. And I looked at him. His last name was Sharky. And I said, Sharky, you're not a bad guy after all. I don't know why nobody in this place likes you. Just joking. Well, he goes over to my friend Bob. He says, that Marty? He told me that nobody here likes me. And Bob was a real smart aleck. And he quickly retorts to Sharky. He says, that's bull. There's you can't believe that. I mean, there's 150 people working right here on this dock right now. There's got to be, there's at least one person that likes you. And Sharky's feeling good because he thinks Bob's about to say that he likes Sharky, make him feel better. And Bob goes, you know what? If I ever figure out who that one person is, I'll come tell you. Poor Sharky, like, oh. But anyway, throw your insults. We know you're projecting something about yourself. Well, you're right when you, Leo, when you say Trump ain't Reagan. But the Democrats are very sane, and they realize Trump is horrible. You see, I did not support the presidencies of Reagan or the two Bushes. I voted against them. The first time I was ever able to vote was in 1976. I was like 18, maybe just turned 19, and I was able to help elect Jimmy Carter for president. That was a wonderful experience. Now, when Reagan got in there, I didn't like him. I didn't like his policies. The man was a good man, but I didn't like his policies. And I wasn't crazy about either Bush. didn't dislike the man, didn't like the policies. But with those three, I always had the feeling that they were my president. Even though I didn't vote for them, they were my president. They did not look at me as the enemy to be stomped out. Donald Trump looks at anyone who doesn't bow down and kiss his feet as the enemy. That's why his revenge tour that he wants to take will encompass not only those at the top of our political ladder, it will encompass even Trump supporters. Mark my words on that. Somebody, see if I can get their name. Let's see, something like They're All Writers or something like that, made a comment about these Trumpanzees being hypnotized. And it is like it. These Trumpanzees, a nickname for Trump followers, act like they've been hypnotized into the Trump cult. They don't know what is, they don't seem to be able to think for themselves. It's a sad thing. A lot of them were the underachievers back in high school and never went to college. I was just thinking of a sitcom I saw, and but anyhow, we won't get into that. They were underachievers, and they think watching Fox News, listening to some blowhard on the radio, makes them educated. Education is sitting down in the classroom. Education is typing up on a manual typewriter 100-page term paper for just one class. And I had several of those types in college. And I tell you what, that manual typewriter, and the professors didn't like, you probably don't even know what whiteout is these days. Well, when you made a mistake, you put a little whiteout. Sometimes you could save your page so you didn't have to type the whole thing over, type over. However, it usually left it messy. The professors didn't like that. And so they grade you down on it. So you ended up retyping that whole darn page again, one little error. You type on your laptop today, you say, I made a mistake. Poof, it corrects itself. By the time you're ready to print, man, you students today, you got it made. But anyhow, that manual typewriter, my roommates would say, they knew when Marty made a mistake because they'd hear a curse word and a thump because I slugged the top of that typewriter. By the time I had finished, that typewriter had a big dent right where I hit it every time. I wish I hadn't got rid of it because it would have been a neat antique. But I was so thrilled when I got electric, and finally when laptops started coming out. Oh man, where were those when I was in college? Somebody said they lost us with immigrants. We are all immigrants. I don't care. Well, yes, Native Americans who are 100% Native Americans, they aren't the descendants of immigrants, but the rest of us all are. And this nation needs to be welcoming. I'd have to look it up, but there's a verse in the Bible where God forbids the mistreatment of immigrants and warns that if you do mistreat them, he would judge us very harshly and would come like with the sword cutting us down. Does it not seem possible? You heard people like Jerry Falwell and Pat Robinson and some of these other ones saying that a hurricane or something was God's judgment because of this, that, or the other thing. Well, could COVID have been God's judgment for Trump's mistreatment of immigrants? The Bible condemns it, and yet some people have no problem with it. Some people ask the same question, so I kind of go past that. The thing is, and here's something else, friends, when you talk about the immigrants. We have a labor shortage in this country, and the jobs, people say, well, I thought we had a job shortage. No. You have wealthy CEOs who are shipping your job overseas so they can make bigger profits. All those jobs, and Joe Biden's been bringing those jobs back to America. That's one reason we have so many jobs. But we get America back working, so we make things here. Where you can't find a computer or a cell phone made in the United States from scratch. Why not? Don't we have some of those minerals under our ground? Don't we have the technology to be making these things here? Sure we do. So why aren't we? Because we have allowed people to ship your jobs overseas because where you might want $20 an hour and deserve $20, $24, $30 an hour, there's some person in that little village over in one of these countries that will do that for $30 a week or less. That's money that goes in the pockets of the CEOs. That's money that comes out of your pockets. That's food that comes out of the mouths of your children. That who sent your job overseas. That's the problem, not immigrants. If we bring them back all these jobs and get all these jobs going, we're going to have a labor shortage. Now, this will have a positive aspect. Every time there's been a labor shortage, such as if you go back to after the Black Plague, there was a labor shortage, so wages went up. This is one of the first times the middle class ever emerged. When there's a labor shortage, wages increase. Jobs become more plentiful. Employers try to make things better for the employees to attract them. Would you like to earn more money? That's what happens when you have more jobs. Now, immigrants are coming here. Part of the reason immigrants are coming here, especially from South America, is that in past Republican administrations, we have destabilized those countries so bad that their populations now are coming up here as refugees. There's several countries that had democratically elected presidents who began to nationalize certain things, such as property owned like the Dole company, and they gave it to farmers in those local countries so they could sell their own profits grown in their country, and they could keep the profits in their country. Well, because Dole, being a big wealthy company, putting money into politicians' hands, we went to war or sent more CI type troops down, destabilized that country, propped up a dictator to come in, and their country went to the devil. Also, some wealthy CEO could have more. Now, their population is coming up here asking for help. They wouldn't have to be coming here if we hadn't destabilized their countries in the first place. It's the height of hypocrisy to say it's the fault of those countries. They should improve their countries. No, we shouldn't have messed with them in the first place, and we should go down and repair the damage we did. And in the meanwhile, we should be accepting these immigrants in and be bringing all our American jobs back, so there's enough jobs for all these immigrants, and there's enough jobs for every American, and good paying jobs, so no one goes without. That's all possible. And there's no reason. Now, I know some people are just racist. Sometimes I'm in the store and the phone rings. I know it's mom, and I'll answer it. I'll answer, "Hola, madre." "Ah, sí. And look around to see if I'm getting any dirty looks. The Portland area is pretty tolerant, pretty liberal, so you don't really get that so much here. But there are places that you do that and you get really dirty looks, which is wrong. And one lady, I told her, you think they're talking about you, but they're not. And here's an interesting story. I told you about that one private school where all the parents would help with different things. Well, one of the parents was helping be recess monitor, outside watching the kids as they played, made sure no one got in fights and all that. No one beats up the principal's bully son. But she was out there, and two of the kids had come in earlier, and they were having so much fun seeing if they couldn't goat someone in. They would say, "You Dankeschön." If you don't know, Dankeschön is German for thank you. And we all know it. All those kids knew it. And we just laughed at them, thought they were being dumb, not realizing they were saying "you thank you." It was like, but we'd all come in for recess, and here comes this one lady that was a recess monitor into the classroom. Oh, she is mad. She walks in there because these two kids were doing that to her, calling her a Dankeschön. And she comes in and she says, I don't speak Spanish, but I know when people are saying bad things about me. Some people are very insecure. They hear a foreign language and they're sure they must be talking about them. And it's always comical when someone at least is honest enough to ask that person, "Are you talking about me?" And then they speak good enough English. They say, "Are you kidding me, man? Are you that big of an egotistic person that you think everybody's talking about you?" But see, some people have a problem. They don't like the fact that America is getting browner. I love it. I think brown skin is beautiful. Right now, I'm pretty pale because I haven't been in the sun much. But as being Sicilian, we darken up quite well. Matter of fact, you remember the old silent movie star Rudolph Valentino? He was one of us. But he had to stay out of the sun because the screen, if he got a little darker, the screen, they were afraid they would think he was a black man. And back then, there's no way they would have put a black man on the screen. And so he had to make sure never out in the sun so he didn't get even the slightest tan. But I mean, many summers, I had black friends coming up, putting their arm against mine, going, "Man, you're darker than me now." But some people are very insecure. And some people, they know they have wronged minorities. And they're really worried that if they become the minority, they'll get treated the same way they treated others. Well, Patsy said that she's getting kind of old. There's nothing wrong with that, Patsy. You're still a worthwhile woman. I hope I'm reading that name right. Mixing your gender up. You say it's past your bedtime. Well, sweetheart, you go ahead. You have a good night's sleep and dream, a perfect dream. Dream of Kamala Harris as president and of Donald Trump in a prison cell where he belongs. I'm not going to read what Danny Weiner or whatever his last name is said. It was awful racist to tell anyone to go to a country they've never been to. You know what? What country did your ancestors come from? I see pictures, cartoons of Native Americans standing there hearing about being invaded and saying, "Yeah, we know what that's like." Nobody other than a Native American should ever utter the words, "Go back to where you came from." Those are racist words. And some of the people who say such things like that don't like being called out for being racist. TikTok King said, "I'm with you, Marty. Thank you, brother. It's really appreciated." And one of my friends keeps asking, because these Trumpanzees kept making nasty little comments throughout this, and he kept asking him, "Why aren't you talking about the Epstein files anymore?" Odd, none of them want to answer that question. don't know why. Same thing as we don't know why Donald Trump refuses to ask for an investigation out of how he got that. Was that ketchup or I don't know. I don't care. But it just seemed odd. But what makes it really funny is when they refuse to talk about it. No, Moody Beard. There is not a difference between a migrant and a settler. Well, I don't know. I got to think about that because there are illegal settlements right now in the West Bank. Maybe you want to put in differences in a squatter. That's what these people in the West Bank are. Not the Palestinians, mind you, but the Israeli right-wing settlers. They're squatters taking land that doesn't belong to them. And in all truth, in all reality, unless you are Native American, we all either are squatters or are the descendants of squatters. Because this was not our country to take. I'm not willing to give it back, mind you. But we all are immigrants, and we should be thankful. We should be all willing not to even give a dirty look at the idea of paying a few dollars more in taxes, maybe $5 more out of each paycheck to be diverted to Native Americans who excuse me a minute. Oh, it's getting away. It's a mouse. I'll catch him later. It's probably the mouse I caught and set free that decided to come back in my house. Anyhow, let's see. No, David. Interesting, David. With a biblical name like that, you can say American citizen is all that matters. Bull! You're wrong, mister. Every human being matters. I don't care if they are what their race, what their religion, what their politics are. You, sir, might have totally opposite views in politics as me. You might hate me, you might want me dead, and I still think your life matters. Because it's wrong. It's wrong to have hate in your heart towards anyone. And we are, if you dare call yourself a Christian, you are obligated by the Bible to do what you can for the least of these. Remember Matthew 25 and towards the end, I believe started 46 verse. Jesus told a parable. He said that in the last days, when judgment is being done, he would take and he would separate the people to one to the other side. And he would say to those goats, I was hungry and you didn't feed me. I was thirsty and you didn't give me anything to drink. I was naked and you didn't clothe me. I was homeless. You didn't give me a home. I was in prison. You didn't visit me. And they'll answer, Lord, when did we see you naked or homeless or sick or in prison and didn't do anything to help you? And Jesus says, when you didn't do it to the least of these, you did not do it for me. And then he says to the sheep, he said, I was hungry. I was naked. I was in prison. I was without a place to sleep. And you provided for me. And they'll answer, Lord, when did we do that for you? And he said, when you did it for the least of these, you did it for me. And then he said, those ones would go off into paradise. But the goats, they would go into eternal damnation where there's suffering and gnashing of teeth. One day we'll have a little talk about what I believe heaven and hell really is. I think we missed the mark what it is, but not now. So You do. If you have a little extra, even if you have to sacrifice, you have an obligation to help your brother. I have opened my home to so many different people, and I was helped when I was down and out. When last business I closed, it took a while to get back on my feet. But I kept doing it. I worked several jobs and finally got a job as a teamster, loading, unloading those big freight trucks. Even got a CDL for a while. The good Lord came through. And in the interim, good people helped me along the way. They didn't stop to say, let me see proof that you're a citizen, because that's not what matters. What matters is there's someone in need. I was going to try to, I hate not answering all the questions. David again says, okay, send me $5,000. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that your economic situation is so dire that $5,000 would lift you out of it. You know, I'm very thankful to be doing as well as I am, but I give my money not to someone on the street. I give it through organizations that help. If I really know the person, I might give them a little bit and help them. You, sir, have already demonstrated that you're part of the problem. I pray you get the help you need. Let's be very clear. One person asked, why don't the rich share their wealth, their stolen wealth? Let's be clear. We're not talking about all the wealthy. We're talking about a certain amount that pads the pockets of certain Republican politicians and used to pad the pockets of Democrats as well. For a while, there were liberal Republicans and conservative Democrats. That's kind of the mix has changed. Many of those conservative Republicans have joined their fellow liberal Republicans in the Democratic Party, at least for this election. But a lot of the wealthy, they try to help, but there's only so much one person can do. And keep this in mind also. As a kid growing up, I could eat like a pig and never put on weight. During my bodybuilding years, man, I tried hard and the pounds just slowly came on. And I could not understand how anyone would allow themselves to get fat, because if I started putting on some weight and weight I didn't like, within a week I could get rid of it real easy. And so it didn't make sense. Then I got past 45 and everything changed. And I began to understand. Unless I really work hard constantly and cut down to almost a starvation diet, I don't lose anymore. And I don't seem to gain anymore. I'm the same weight I was when I was in the height of my bodybuilding years, but it's reproportioned, not exactly how I like. My point here in sharing this with you is that someone growing up in wealth has the illusion that money is so easy. All they have to do is reach out and take it. I needed a new car. Oh, I just went and got it. It was really easy. I need money for this. Dad just gave it to me. One rich kid once said, well, why doesn't their parents just give them the money they need? Innocently. He wasn't being nasty. But to him, it didn't make sense because he did not grow up impoverished. I grew up in an upper middle class family. My grandfather was a contractor. He'd buy big plots of land and build a whole street and name it after family members. Down in San Diego and some in San Jose, there's a lot of streets named after my family. Or at least there used to be. Keep in mind, those were a lot of years ago. But the wealthy are not necessarily evil. Sometimes they don't see how selfish they're being. And it's not all. This is why it's so important not to label all. And I'm making it clear, I'm not saying all wealthy. Anyway, I have talked on for quite a while now, and I'm going to take a quick look to see if I can catch anything. Again, thank you, my good friend, for saying me for Perez, but I said why that wouldn't work. Somebody doesn't seem to hasn't been watching the news. We had a fantastic Democratic convention, and we democratically, by vote, voted for Kamala Harris to be our nominee. It's going great. She's beating Trump in every poll. It's wonderful. She's beating him in states that we didn't think we had a chance at. It looks like a blue wave is mounting, bluer than my shirt, and it's getting bigger and bigger. We might just be looking at a blue tsunami. Yes, we are going places, and we got good things ahead. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, anyhow, I've talked long enough, and I'm getting a little tired, and I'm sure most of you have gotten tired of listening, and most of you probably have gone off. These things will tell you when someone joins, but it doesn't say how many people still are on at a time. So I could even be talking just to myself. Who knows? Anyway, I want to thank each one of you for taking time to listen to me. And remember, the type of country we would have if Donald Trump could steal a second term is not the type of country any of us would want to live in. It will be very unpleasant. And you can say, oh, you could go somewhere else. Where? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go and be an immigrant? Remember, you go in that other country, you're not going to get to leave with whatever wealth you've acquired. You're going to go with a shirt on your back, and that's about it. And you're going to have to rely on their charity. And maybe you'll get a lower wage job there and be able to work to the end. Maybe they'll be generous, but maybe not. That is the problem. There's nowhere to go. And where are you going to go? You're going to go to a country you can't speak the language? So we're here, and we're here to make the best of it. So anyway, I'm going to tie this all up. I thank you all for listening, and I've gabbed on long enough. I hope I've made a point. I must have, because I seem to have got under the skin of a few individuals that think Trump would be awesome. Well, he'd be awesome for the Russians, awesome for China, and maybe the Iranians. Not for Americans, not for anybody else. Only for Trump. And let me also tell you this. In the Roman Empire, most of those emperors died of unnatural causes. They were eliminated by the very people who were there to guard them. And that's how most dictators end up. Think, that man in Germany, how well did he end up? How well did Mussolini end up? This is the fate of dictators. It's not a good one. I don't wish that on Trump. I don't hate the man. I feel sorry for him. I've read the books, Mary Trump's book. I've read the books about him and how he was. I pity the man. But pitying him doesn't mean I want him to do to the country what he's done and other things. The man belongs behind bars, and we're going forward. Thank you all. You all have a good night.